Embattled Macy's is launching turnaround efforts as it looks to keep up with shifting consumer needs and reestablish the Macy's brand. But our next guest says these efforts are likely to fall very flat. Mark Cohen, Columbia Business School Director of Retail Studies, joins us now. Mark, always good to get some time with you. A lot of folks on the street are slapping Macy's on the back here because of an improvement in sales and margins, but you don't agree with that. Why is that?
Well, I think any kind of change in performance in 2022 has to be viewed in light of the disruption that started in early 2020. So I don't think trends, both positive and negative, that we're seeing at the moment are indicative of the future in any way. At the end of it all, Macy's performance going into the pandemic in 2019 was fair to poor and failing. And I don't think anything has changed with regard to the strategies that you're talking about today as they look toward the future.
Mark, what happens to Macy's if we go into a recession this year?
Well, a recession is an economic concept that I think almost no one understands or has any sensitivity to as consumers. The components that are of concern are obviously rising inflation, which is striking at the moment, and the possibility that unemployment will rear its ugly head. There's some indication that employment statistics are softening, and that would make sense. And so I think that a recession per se has no bearing on the holiday season. What I think will be of importance is consumer sentiment, which is certainly not in a great place at the moment, largely driven by inflation.
Do you believe that there would be an exit from underperforming categories within retail if you had a business that was looking across everything from like a Walmart might at this point in time, look across discretionary, look across technology, look across, even into the grocery business? Those well-performing items, they're going to stay for sure. But do we see trims as part of this cost restructuring in specific categories for retailers?
The danger in eliminating categories because they begin to underperform or you find them too difficult to manage is extraordinarily dangerous. It's a short-term phenomenon that has mid to long-term consequences. Back in the day, the department stores sold an awful lot more than apparel and accessories. They not only had soft home businesses, they had robust hard home businesses. They had electronics businesses, housewares, hardware. In exiting those categories, which at the time seemed like a brilliant thing to do, they are now suffering for the fact that their relevance is on the line. And I think the preeminence of an Amazon, a Target, and a Walmart reflects the fact that they are not eliminating categories. Rather, they're broadening their coverage across things they might not have taken seriously in the past.
Mark, it's Julie here. Are we going to see a wave of bankruptcies as we see the economic downturn?
Well, there's no question that as business becomes tougher to manage, weak players fall by the wayside. They're particularly vulnerable to inflationary pricing, inflationary costs. There's this little known fact that e-commerce is for most an extremely unprofitable effort. And so I think we will see a flurry of bankruptcies likely in the first quarter of 2023 if this holiday season is anything less than completely robust. And I don't think it will be, by the way.
Mark, any names you think are on the risk of really going under? We've been covering at length Bed Bath & Beyond here. There are real concerns about how that company can survive past this holiday season, even if we aren't in recession.
Well, Bed Bath & Beyond is in a world of hurt because they've burned an enormous amount of available cash. Their business has no forward momentum. And now, as we all know, they have an enormous leadership gap that they have to fill. So I would not be at all surprised if they teeter-totter into a restructure sometime in the beginning of 23. For the most part, most retailers have hardened their balance sheets as a necessary means of surviving COVID. And so if they manage to back off this flood of inventory that they've got on hand and on the way, and plan conservatively for the second half of the year, I think they will be largely intact going into 23. But again, a lot depends on the nature of the business at Holiday. I think that we're all hoping there's not another strain of COVID that sets the world back, and that the events in the Ukraine don't explode into something far more problematic than what we're seeing now.
Yeah, a lot of uncertainties that could move the needle one way or the other. Mark Cohen, thank you so much. Great to get your insight this morning. Columbia Business School Director of Retail Studies, Mark Cohen. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.